The Apostle Paul knows how to write a good letter. He's writing to the church at Philippi, where he and Timothy and Silas founded a church, apparently causing quite a ruckus in the process. It's been 10 years since that time, since Paul was there founding that community, but his affection is still so warm towards it. He begins the letter, "I thank God every time I remember you, praying with joy for you all, for you share in the good news." I hope that the recipients of this letter felt as warmly towards Paul as he does towards them, because he goes on to instruct them on several matters, like a benevolent and chiding parent. They should imitate Christ in their humility. They should try not to argue so much. They should avoid evil. They should let go of the past and allow God's call to lead them out into the future. All of this is probably good advice, but as we all know, even good advice can be hard to take. And perhaps the hardest of all of Paul's advice comes towards the end of the letter, the passage that Keith read this morning. Rejoice in God always. Do not worry about anything. Let the peace of God guard your hearts and minds, and focus on the positive. I don't know about you, but when I'm in a tough spot and someone tells me to focus on the positive, I don't take it very well. Most of us would rather be listened to with compassion in our times of difficulty rather than be told to look on the bright side. It may be worth remembering, though, that Paul is writing this letter from prison, which is to say he is well acquainted with hardship. In fact, most of his life has been extremely challenging ever since he decided to follow Jesus. He's gone on several arduous journeys. He gets a whole lot of people upset in the course of trying to share the good news. And he spends a lot of time in prison. This is not the only time he has ended up there. It would have been entirely natural for Paul to spend his energy on frustration with the hardships of travel, or anger with those local officials who lock him up. But although Paul is surrounded by literal guards, he tells the Philippians, and by extension he tells us, that we should let the peace of God guard our hearts and our minds. So maybe Paul is not that irritating person who has no appreciation for hardship. Perhaps instead he is someone who has been through it, offering survival tips for the rest of us. When you're stuck in jail with handwritten letters, your only possibility of contact with your loved ones and the communities that you feel so compelled to support, perhaps it is helpful to put your focus on what is good as much as possible. So I suggest the same for us. Lord knows many folks in our community have been through it and are still going through it. We each, in our own turn, in our own time, learn how challenging life can be. We need only observe the world around us to notice how many things are not going well. Our pain and the world's injustice are real and important. And staying afloat, making it through, depends on not fixating on those problems to the exclusion of everything else. We need spiritual refreshment and reinforcement, which is offered to us when we choose to let go of worry anyway, when we thank God anyway, when we rejoice in all that is good anyway. So I'd like to invite you all to join me in a little time of guided meditation of gratitude. You could settle your body a little bit to be more comfortable. If you're not already, get both of your feet on the ground. You could open your hands in your lap, or put them down on your lap, or place them on your heart or your belly, if whatever feels right for you. You could close your eyes if you wish. I invite you to take a few slow, expansive breaths. Beloved, I invite you to remember and rejoice in today the love of those who have cared for you well, the wisdom of those who have taught you well, the generosity of those who have helped you to meet your needs, the courage of those who have fought for your humanity to be respected, or challenge you to respect the humanity of others. The attention of those who have noticed and appreciated and lifted up your gifts. I invite you to remember and rejoice in today the care of the communities that have nurtured you in childhood, as a young adult, in later years, communities of many kinds, and also friendships and family, given and chosen, who have nurtured you. I invite you to remember and rejoice in today the beauty of creation. Call to mind the most lovely places you have ever been, and also those favorite spots that you return to regularly. And also the natural beauty right outside your door at home, and outside the door here, and in the places where you go all the time. I invite you to remember and rejoice in the small graces of every day, small graces of this morning, and also to remember and rejoice in the big grace of our God, foundation of love out of which our world was made, the source of compassion and creativity out of which we each came into being, the force of change that invites us towards freer, truer, and more joyful life. I invite you to remember and rejoice in and deeply receive all of the good things in your life. Allow them deeply into your heart so that you might be refreshed, love, guarded by peace, filled with the fullness of God, burst forth the fruits of joy and thanksgiving.